This is FinTech Futures reporting from FinovateFall, and I'm joined by Suvrat and Clay of Clarista. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time out to speak to us today. Just to start off, can you give us an introduction to yourselves and your roles at Clarista? Suvrat, and we will start with you first.
Yeah, sure. I'm the founder and CEO of Clarista. Thanks for having me. Spent 25 years in financial services, helping companies really making sense of the data, but more importantly, starting to use it for creating opportunities and managing risk. And then 2021, I kind of was seeing the significant increased use and the demand for data, but just not enough satisfaction in what people were looking for it. So decided to take an entrepreneurial journey, which we'll talk about.
Awesome. Clayton Karges. I'm the head of products here at Clarista. And my background is really at the intersection of data, finance, and AI. And super excited to be here. I've already learned a lot.
Excellent, sounds great. Well, I guess to start off then, in one line then, what does Clarista do?
Yeah, I think, look, we live and breathe context, so I'll have to start with the context. So I think what has happened in the last 15 years, which is one of the things I was personally observing and living with, especially post-2008 financial crisis, I think there are these two macro things where every financial professional who's making any critical decision has become more risk and compliance aware. So they are checking things and rechecking things, and there are multiple levels of approvals and reviews, right? That's the world we live in. But the second part is that the information availability has continued to increase once, cloud and digital and post-COVID, every call is getting recorded, every email archived, right? So there's just too much to synthesize. It's essentially, if you break it down into this, it's a three-step process for these professionals. Find the information by going into different systems, document store, we call that retrieval. Retrieve information, what you're looking for. Second is then identifying risk and gaps, right? So that you can make a more holistic and informed decision. And then third is synthesis of all of that to make a judgment call. Clarista automates these three steps for professionals who have struggled traditionally on bringing things together, especially from different sources, and make a judgment call and produce something.
I guess what's the biggest misconception about AI in financial services today then?
I'll take that. I think, look, there are multiple, and I'll welcome Clay's thoughts on it. He's very plugged in with what's going on. But one of the things we kind of support and work with decision makers. So one of the things which we almost laugh at is, irrespective of how much information is getting captured, AI is so far from replacing a decision maker. So that's the biggest misconception that, oh, you know what, like AI can actually start making decisions, because there are years and decades of experience in a combined team which lead to synthesis together, right, and formation of a view. The second is generally, like, what we're seeing is just like anything, one of the biggest misconception, rather, I can't blame anyone for that. Because we have lived in the world of software and SaaS, people kind of think about just slapping every feature in that little capsule. Oh, I'll put AI in my Salesforce. I'll put AI in my SharePoint. That doesn't help in synthesizing information. So that's a misconception that leads to significant intelligence. It just leads to, yes, finding things a little bit faster, and it clearly has optimization. And then, yeah, Clay, please feel free to add.
Yeah. I think to add on to the point about the technology, I'd say that AI is really fundamentally not about the technology. It's about the people and making sure that people feel empowered and not threatened by the technology. And that, I mean, a few small wins goes a long way in demoing that. So I'd just say that. And then additionally, I would note that there is this misconception that AI is always going to be hallucinating. But the reality is that if you have a strong data foundation and you have proper evaluations, AI can be highly deterministic. Although it is probabilistic at its heart, you can build systems that you can rely on and trust for high stakes decisions.
Oh, yeah, good points.
So where do AI projects in financial services most often break then?
Yeah, so AI projects rarely fail on the demo stage. That part's easy to impress with.
Oh, we know that.
Scaling is the real challenge. When institutions try to move from pilot to production,
Exactly.
most systems break down, right? And it's because you're leaping from this messy, unstructured data to polished looking answers, but you have no evidence trail, no consistency, and no governance. The idea is that this ultimately results in answers that you can't trust and outputs that you can't adopt. Because they can't be verified or dependent. So this ultimately results in 20 pilots that work, but nothing that actually scales, because they were built for demos. They weren't built for production.
Yeah, absolutely. We see it all the time. Yep.
So how does Clarista overcome these challenges then?
Yeah. So Clarista overcomes these challenges really in two steps, right? The first step is by connecting directly to your entire data ecosystem and creating a single representation layer for all of that data. And the second step is Clarista goes to work the same way that a great analyst would, right? It builds structure first. It extracts and organizes the facts. It surfaces anomalies and red flags. And also it composes a clear, verifiable narrative for the end user. So every point's tied back to its source. So the decision maker doesn't have to see the answer. They know it can be trusted, right?
Yeah, and just to add to that, look, there is no one size fit all with AI. I mean, look, 20 years back, we were, talking about forecasting. Right? It still has a role, right? Just because we are now talking about generative AI, that hasn't gone away. Same way, don't throw all problems at generative AI level directly, right? When you think about systems with billions of transactions, I mean, you can't just say, I'm going to treat it like a document space. So I think to build upon what Clay is saying, how Clarista solves that problem is to really fit the solution to the problem. So we have two different technologies, one which deals with systems data, one which will deal with documents, but from a user interaction perspective, it's the same experience. So if you just say, I'm going to take a monolithic view of just one-dimensional view to approach every problem, it will fail. But if you are smart about approaching different problems with different solution spaces, but finally give one unified experience to the people, that's where we win.
Excellent. That sounds great. And I guess, can you share a few examples then of how your clients are leveraging AI with Clarista?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you one a real example. So we have a client, they have a large private credit fund, right? And because of what has been happening in last few years, everyone knows how many companies have been going for private equity funding. Just, there was a lot of liquidity, interest rates were low. So private credit companies like them look at around 1,000 deals a year. And they spend around a day to 5 days just screening the deal. Like, hey, is it worth taking a deeper dive? Is it worth asking for all the details? Do we really consider this as a potential deal for us? So if we aggregate all that, right, 1,000 times, let's say 40 hours, you're talking about 40,000 hours of work is screening that data. And I think with Clarista, what they came up with is like, okay, let's create a SWOT analysis as a brief from Clarista. It automatically synthesizes all the documents. It even goes and looks for any public information on the board members of the company so that you can do high-level KYC check on who these people are, what their profiles are, and produces a very well summarized synopsis of what the company's strengths are, what are the threats, what are the risks. And through that process, they just scan that and able to put the deal aside or put it on, right? Same thing, right? Think about like thousands of students applying for college, right? It's the same process. You need some filtering, but it needs to be smart enough to replicate how a human mind thinks versus like, hey, I can just check a number and make the decision. What if there are a lot of softer things you want to consider? So I think looking at that success, they have turned that process, even shock for us, like to a 4-hour process. So imagine going from 40 hours to 4 hours. It's like, thousands of percentage of efficiency gain you can get. By doing that, you do two things. One, you can focus on more deals. And second, you can take a deeper view of the deals you actually want to invest in.
Sounds great. And I guess to finish off here then, is there anything you can tell us about Clarista's future plans then?
Yeah, it's a very exciting space actually. So, what we learned from our clients. So I think one of our recent clients in the insurance space, as we were presenting this whole concept of generation finally. So, you again retrieve a spot check for the risks and then synthesize in the format which people can hold it in a hand like a brief. And the person came up with this idea that, look, we are really complicating the insurance products to be differentiators. So they're wrapping all kinds of investment vehicles nowadays in insurance policies called VUL policies or variable annuity policies. And he said, look, it takes us to educate our sales team. It takes us, like roughly 6 months of preparation of videos and recording and then giving video training. Can you convert this brief into a podcast? I was like, wow, that's awesome. So we worked on it. We delivered that podcast. It's a 5 to 10 minute podcast, depending on how many segments you want in it. And I heard it for the first time. I was commuting and Clay sent that to me. I was blown away.
It's outstanding.
And that form factor of audio to synthesize is just so groundbreaking, right? It's very efficient. It's almost entertaining. You have to give it that. Text is boring and an inefficient way of consuming information. So we feel the video and audio taking a front stage in analysis. People think of these as gimmicks, but when you really get to it, these are fundamentally, they will transform the way you're looking at information today.
Yeah, I think people are used to the form factor of ChatGPT, where you go in, you ask a question, you get a response in text, but very soon you're going to have experiences that come from that, right? So not just podcasts, not just video, but decks on demand, right? PowerPoints on demand. And it's going to be extremely powerful for education, for information synthesis, for onboarding to new knowledge. It's outstanding.
Yeah, and we're very excited about, when clients take us, which they always have, push the envelope. The reason they work with us is because of the flexibility, right? And they tell us that look, I'm going to work with you guys because I want to drive innovation faster. Then they really do, right? So all the myths about, oh, companies move slow in financial services, wait till you find that champion and they will like push you. And I've done that quite a bit in my previous life. So I know how to identify these champions and then to work with them to enable them.
Sounds great. Well, exciting times ahead. Gentlemen, thank you so much for speaking with us today. It's been a pleasure. Hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Of course. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.